Welcome back to Local Threads. I'm Molly, your host, and this week I sit down with Melissa Woods, the designer behind Trued Apparel, a Boston-made slow fashion brand that's redefining what it means to dress with intention. She's a fashion designer, she's a UX researcher, and a creative force, someone who builds every piece with wearability in mind. We talk about how she launched a brand rooted in accountability to the planet, to the process, and to her own one-of-a-kind alternative style. We talk about movies, fashion supply chain, and finding joy in creating. Let's get into it. Welcome.
Hi, great to be here.
Thanks for coming.
Of
All the way
course.
from Alston, right?
Yeah, or you could say all the way from just like a floor downstairs.
Yeah. So we both have a studio in Winsmith Mill, and I don't exactly know how we met. Did I just follow you and be like, hi?
Actually,
sure.
so other folks that had shop spaces on the first floor were like, you should meet Molly. If this is what you do and
Yeah.
that's what she does, then you guys should know each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Tammy.
Yeah.
And then we finally connected, which is awesome. I don't think we ended up doing like hanging out per se for a while. Yeah, but
Yeah, I think we were messaging back and forth trying to figure out a time to meet in
Yeah.
person for a little bit because I'm not here all that often.
Yeah.
And I was like, I popped in at least once when you weren't there first before I
Yeah.
actually got to meet you.
Didn't love running a shop. What? I gotta be here on the weekends.
Yeah, I got close to that at one point. There is a space in Brookline near where I live that could have been a possibility, but I would have had to man the store myself. And
Yeah. I think
I
you got
could-
enough going on.
Yeah, I could have done that when I was just in school, but now
Yeah.
that I have a full-time job and I'm in school and I'm doing this, it's not going to happen.
Which is,
just as well.
first of all, wild. But I can't, like, so you still work at a nonprofit?
Yeah, my early career was in the arts. So doing communications and marketing, that kind of thing for museums. So I spent quite a few years at the Peabody Essex Museum up in Salem.
That's awesome. I still haven't had an opportunity to go there. It seems like every time I'm in Salem and I'm like, oh, I want to go. It's either I go on the day that it's closed, like midweek, or it's past the closing time or whatever. I really want to go there.
It's a really great museum. Like it's because you have the big like MFAs and then you have the Contemporary Museum of Boston, which is the ICA.
Yeah.
And then I would say Pem and the Gardner are the two sort of mid-sized, really unique, like you go there to experience a particular kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go.
Yeah, I need to.
We can go together.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
And I won't be the millionth person to go on about third spaces.
Yeah.
But
no, it's great.
it's harder when it's freaking cold out.
Yeah.
Like now that the weather is turning, I find myself out of the house more and just wanting to connect with people more.
Yeah, for sure.
That's weather in Boston, though. Like most of the year is just inhospitable outside.
Yeah.
And that includes the peak of the summer, too, because it's like sweltering.
Yeah. And I can't swim in this ocean. It's like incredibly cold.
Yes.
So like
don't get me started on
where
that.
do people go? I need to find a lake or a river or something.
First of all, people out here are built different. They're just like used to misery.
Yeah.
So, my husband enjoys frigid, cold water.
Yeah.
I don't because I don't know, like temperatures that are logical.
Yeah.
But, and I grew up in Hawaii. Listeners may not know that. But yeah, so my bar for a good beach is pretty high.
Yeah.
And out here, you just have to accept that, like, the beaches are rocky. Just go there to plant yourself in a chair mostly. And people who are down with the water will go in the water. That's not me.
Yeah. I tried. And I got about waist deep. And apparently they were like, no, you got to wait till Labor Day. Speaking of Hawaii, so you grew up in Hawaii. When did you move to Boston?
2004.
So almost 21 years ago.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I hadn't actually done that math in a little bit. And I've got a community here. It's to the point where I go out and I like bump into people and I know my way around neighborhoods. Yeah, but I could never say I'm from Boston. I say I live in Boston.
Yeah. Honestly, I have not, in the last 20 plus years, I have not lived anywhere more than 7 years.
If someone was to ask me out of the places I've lived where I would say my identity, like from, Probably Hawaii, because that's
Yeah.
the formative years. Like wherever you spent your teenage years and came into your own, I think.
Yeah. What was it like growing up there?
I enjoy gothy things.
Yeah.
And
So too much
there's not a
sunshine.
ton of that there,
Yeah.
as you might imagine. Though at the time, as a teenager, I was listening to what a lot of people who were on the alt side of things were listening to at the time, which was like third wave skate punk
Yeah.
and new metal. I fully copped to that. But it was also like post-punk revival was happening at that time. And that's what led me into goth eventually. Because like
Yeah.
I got further into it in college. And now most of my friends are in the goth space.
Yeah.
I don't
Or goth
do
adjacent.
labels per se,
Yeah.
but yeah, I consider myself more adjacent than actually. I do wear a lot of black, but that's not the definition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like a goth home aesthetic, obviously. But yeah, I think I have too many color variations to be. I like aesthetic jumping.
Yeah.
I
You should
can't
just
pin
be
one down.
yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've noticed certain tendencies in me over time as I've gotten to know myself, but you should just do whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, for sure. While we're on the subject of goth, let's do a this or that.
Sure.
This or that movie style edition. You pick which one you think the style is better or you like better.
And you want me to tell you why too? Justify it?
Yeah, we can do that. All right. The Craft or Practical Magic?
Okay, so I'll just lay the groundwork here. So The Craft is more like the Catholic schoolgirl goth. Plus, of course, Nancy's got like the more extreme look going on. And I just love Fairuza Balk's look in that movie because she's just so intense looking. So there's that. Particularly for Fairuza Balk, there's points on the floor there. But Practical Magic is whimsy goth.
Yeah.
That's like core whimsy goth. So it depends on your personal taste. For me, practically day to day, I might go more with The Craft because they have a bit of a crisper look plus occasional bits of shine, like a pleather jacket or something.
Yeah.
I feel like that's personally more my aesthetic. Whimsy goth has always been a little bit more feminine than I personally identify with.
Yeah.
Although I love the look. Yeah.
Okay. Interview with the Vampire or The Crow?
The Crow for sure.
Yeah. Hands down. That doesn't even really need any justification.
Yeah. Again, for the same reasons.
Yeah.
It's like more of a minimalist, sleek kind of look.
Yeah.
A little like more modern. Whereas obviously Interview with the Vampire is like frilly things.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And we're getting a little weird. Not weird, but we'll see how you take it. Beetlejuice, obviously not every character is goth, but you get it. Or the Addams Family.
Morticia's style is A+,
Yeah.
of course. Beetlejuice is more eccentric. Obviously, Tim Burton, that's the definition of him. I don't know. Beetlejuice doesn't have style.
It's really just Lydia.
Yeah. So it's like the bangs, and she's got the red wedding dress and a couple other outfits. But I don't think it's so much of a style movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like fashion movie.
And I don't know. I can't even think of that many style changes through the movie, like outfit changes, but
because she's like wearing her school uniform through a lot of it.
Yeah, I do like when they do the dinner party, Elia's outfit.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, actually, that's a great
Yeah.
point. Catherine O'Hara
Yeah.
is actually the style icon of that.
Yeah.
You're adding like the interior design to it.
Yeah.
Then yeah, it is a very obviously aesthetic movie. But the other one was
The Addams Family.
Oh yeah. I think if you're more into like film noir, like
Yeah.
that era of fashion, that's where all that comes from. So are you an old school or like campy goth? Yeah.
So
which am I?
Yeah.
But now we've actually talked it out. I think that I like the campiness of Catherine O'Hara, etc. It's more fun.
Iconic. I loved her outfits. So you're going with Beetlejuice then?
Yes.
Okay.
Only because I remembered about Catherine O'Hara.
Heathers or Lost Boys?
If we're talking fashion, Lost Boys for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can probably see a pattern now in my choices.
Yeah.
Like Crow, Lost Boys, Craft. It's more of the modern look.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for romantic goth and that side of things, but it's just not my personal aesthetic.
I just love a good blazer and a brooch.
Heather's is more just general 80s fashion.
Yeah.
Right?
I love 80s. I don't know why it's listed as goth.
And it's a black comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does have murder in it. So,
yeah.
Drano, that was a choice, right? Maybe because of the color. I don't know. Sweeney Todd or Queen of the Damned?
I think Queen of the Damned, again, because even though like vampire movies tend to have like older fashion references.
Yeah.
Again, more roughly Victorian, etc. Sweeney Todd is also Victorian. Yeah, just although I picked Beetlejuice before, I think I'm going to go Queen of the Damned this time. Again, because like most of the outfits I think were early aughts outfits. Yeah.
Iconic. I think this is the last one. Buffy or Jennifer's Body. These aren't necessarily, they're like goth light.
Those are interesting choices. I love Jennifer's Body. Although I will plug, if anyone out there has not seen Ginger Snaps yet, have you seen that movie?
I don't know.
Because Jennifer's Body is basically a remake of Ginger Snaps, like thematically, in my opinion. But yeah, Jennifer's Body is great in the same ways that Ginger Snaps is great. And Buffy is also great. But I came in late to that one.
Yeah.
I don't think I watched it when it was first airing. I watched it after the fact and grew to appreciate it.
We're talking about the movie, not the series.
Oh, the OG one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes sense because we're talking about movies. I love the original Buffy movie. Crap. Now I'm stuck.
Yeah. It's way better, I think. So,
okay. So the Buffy movie has Paul Rubens.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a huge boon for that movie. So let's see. It was Buffy versus
Jennifer's Body.
Okay, so I'm going to pick Buffy just because it's more of a classic.
Yeah.
Jennifer's Body is a great movie. It actually made me think a lot. It has a lot of iconic moments, but Buffy has to win hands down.
Yeah. Let's get into how, first of all, you moved to Boston. We talked about how we met, and then your time in the arts with the Peabody Museum, and now you're working at a nonprofit.
I'm actually working in healthcare now.
Healthcare.
So I'm doing user experience research for a healthcare software company.
Okay, yeah. We talked about it briefly. You just recently got your second master's.
I actually graduate in 3 weeks. So technically I don't have it yet.
I mean, you will. You do, basically. 3 weeks, that's nothing. If there's any indication that of all the things that you've accomplished already, I think you can pretty much say, yeah. By the time this podcast comes out, you'll probably have it.
Knock on wood, unless I faceplant somehow between now and then. So.
I doubt it. I doubt it. And on top of that, you built a brand, Trued Apparel. It was during the pandemic, right? So that was when you started your second master's as well? 2 years, right? The programs usually?
Wait,
it's 2025.
Yeah, I know. Math. I started this degree 2 years ago. So after the height of the pandemic, once we had started getting back to normal again. So Trued was already like 3 by then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So my bad. I honestly, time just really doesn't exist to me after the pandemic. It just doesn't feel like it's been that long.
It feels weird now. I remember, first of all, I became more of a homebody, right? Just like a lot of people. But I remember going out into neighborhoods I used to know really well and seeing a lot of businesses had turned over and just like realizing that the landscape of the city was not what I remembered anymore. And it made me feel like Rip Van Winkle. And I still like I took a walk through Central Square a couple weeks ago it was the old stomping ground, just to take a walk that I've taken a bunch of times, like all through the years, like when I was so much younger, different social circle, all that stuff. And there were a lot of things that were familiar, like really hadn't changed at all, and other things that had turned over. But I just had to like make that circuit again to update my brain of this is what Central Square looks like now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm always in that zone because I'm always in a new place. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird because like I know you lived in Poland, right?
Yeah, before we were here, we were in Poland.
Yeah, so if you went back to where you lived in Poland 5-10 years from now, it would be pretty different too. Yeah. It's like you think you can go back to a place that has how it's fixed in your mind, but you actually can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I lived in Vegas, so that's like a prime example. Like you blink and that whole city's different. I think the last time I was there was 2011, and yeah, I probably wouldn't recognize it.
If you're from a city, it's likely to do that.
Yeah. So you were working at the time at a nonprofit when you started Trued?
Yeah. So I was working at the museum that I've been mentioning at the time that the pandemic started, but I had already been laying the groundwork and doing all the prep for Trued. And my plan was to do it on the side as like a creative pursuit.
Yeah.
So I actually attended this like online accelerator for a 6-month program called
Right.
Factory 45 for specifically sustainable fashion, like design, just to launch your independent brand. And they give you a list of contacts and everything to like get off the ground. So that's how I found a good number of people that I started working with. Yeah, but I had already been doing all of that before the pandemic even happened. So
Yeah.
it was weird timing because e-commerce actually did do really well during the
Yeah.
pandemic. So in terms of the kind of cadence of the business, it launched pretty well. So
So you
yeah.
launched it while everyone's in lockdown, and
Yeah, in like at the end of the first year of the pandemic.
and so you were like essentially relying on Instagram
Yeah.
at that point?
Yeah, because I never actually planned to do markets or anything. Like I didn't even know that was a thing
Yeah.
until later on. So I figured I would just sell everything off the website and have a social media presence. And basically that's that because the social would feed towards the website.
Yeah. So I love that the name is Trued Apparel or Trued. Can you talk about how you came up with that? Because I love that
Oh, sure.
story.
Yeah, yeah. First of all, I could have picked a way gothier sounding name. I was actually down to either Vermilion or Trued Apparel, and they both have very different vibes.
Yeah, for sure.
And I even went down this rabbit hole of, well, first of all, most of the clothes are black and Vermilion is red. So
Yeah.
that doesn't really, but like I was exploring words like that had more of a romantic, evocative thing to them. I even went down this rabbit hole. Vermilion is this lacquer that came from China that was used in a certain era on certain objects. And so it has this like connotation to it and blah, blah, blah. Versus Trued Apparel was a lot more of a utilitarian vibe.
Yeah.
And so the underlying idea there is that Trued, I actually am using in an engineering kind of way where when you true a wheel, you bring it into alignment with its environment. If you true a bike wheel, it doesn't bump against the other bits of the like bike and all that. So basically when you true something, you make sure that it's as frictionless as possible. And it's also interesting that I ended up doing UX as my like full-time job because you do the same thing in UX. You try to make sure that people can use things in as frictionless a way as possible.
Yeah.
Anyway, my approach to designing was to create things that are versatile and also, yeah, the idea was Trued Apparel is apparel that is in line with, it's not keeping you from doing anything in life. I always have been the kind of person who I don't wear a lot of heels or keep my nails long or anything because I want to be able to hit the ground running everywhere I go kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's something that doesn't restrict your movement. Comfort is really key. And also versatility, like I mentioned, but also to true it to like the whole business to be in line with the planet that we live on, with the communities that we live in, because a lot of fashion is really exploitative and destructive. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't adding to any of those problems. And it's something that I've had an ongoing relationship with, and I go back and forth about a lot because you are really tying one hand behind your back as a designer when you decide to work in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
And being an independent business is already really difficult. I don't know. I wanted to see if I could do it in a way, and I can make some compromises here and there. For example, with the aesthetic that I am working in, it's really tough to not be able to do things in mesh and lace. I want to. Like sequins are off the table. That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would like to be able to bring those in accent panels and things like that
Yeah.
because it's not. I don't want to be too dogmatic about it. The fact
Yeah.
is that sustainability is a spectrum of different things you can do. Like you can be a zero waste person that like designs in mesh, but you use every little scrap of fabric that,
Right.
in your designs. A lot of different ways to slice it.
Yeah. You mentioned like it's restrictive because you want to use those things. It also allows you to be creative in a way that you wouldn't normally. Sustainability can either be really restrictive or it can just be a new set of eyes. And we just have to like use that new set of eyes with some of those restrictive barriers, but also being realistic. Nothing is black and white in this world. It's very difficult to be 100% sustainable. When we talked before, you use psoas in Dorchester. So all your products are made here. And you had talked about, which kind of changed my perspective about nearshoring. I can't remember the context in which we were talking about it.
Okay, we could get into the whole tariffs thing, but I think a lot of people
We already know
learning-
tariffs are bad now.
Boo.
I already knew, but some people, I guess, do not know.
Yeah, we're all learning based on what is getting constricted
Yeah.
because of the tariffs, that a lot of things that we didn't realize come from outside the country.
Yeah.
And not even talking like already assembled products, but like pieces of products that are assembled here.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be transparent. My fabric comes from Canada, but I think they get it from China.
Yeah.
And not that's even a bad thing.
Like use tinsel, right?
Yeah, tencel and organic cotton. And anytime I'm not using that, it's dead stock fabric. So, like, for example, if you went on my website, I do have a mesh kaftan, but that's made from dead stock mesh that I found. The resources that it takes to ship things all over the world obviously is not good for the earth, but it's the way that global trade is run.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to extricate yourself from that, even if you're trying really hard to. So I've focused more on making sure the materials are sustainable while checking all the boxes of like comfort and high quality and everything like that I try to keep to. Yeah, we could get into the whole made in China thing as well. I know enough about it to know that like you can be ethically producing and not ethically producing in China, but that's your decision as a business person.
And it all boils down to cost, right?
Yeah. Garments, the thing is that people are conditioned to expect a certain price point on garments at this point because of the way that the industry has been run for a while now, for a generation effectively. So if you are expecting those sorts of prices, it is really difficult to produce locally because you have to pay local labor prices. I managed to do that, but I'm not getting the margins that you normally would, that I work another job.
Yeah.
So if I was producing outside the country, maybe I wouldn't work another job, but that's a compromise. I think, first of all, people need to expect to pay more for clothes, buy less. And I just don't think that realistically, that's a compromise a lot of people are either want to or are able to make. Yeah. Because there are already so many other things they have to spend money on. I think about the idea of Naked Lunch, the not movie, the book, is about knowing what's behind what's on your fork or whatever I think is the metaphor. What are you really eating? What are you consuming? Now that I've kind of lifted that curtain, I can't unsee it. And so I either buy independent or thrift a lot myself. Yeah, the vast majority of the business is just such a way, and consumers are conditioned in just such a way, and that's how it is.
It's wild to me that because I come from a manufacturing background, and you're always just taught inventory is waste, and obviously they're producing at such high rates, and the margins are so large that they can just throw out. And it doesn't matter.
Actually, if we could get everyone to understand what pre-sales are, to do, you buy something and you get it maybe 2 months later, but every single thing that's made is sold.
Yeah.
And then the company wouldn't have to eat the excess of inventory that's not sold. That's a win-win.
Yeah.
But people need to understand it's not going to be an immediate gratification thing.
Yeah. I do understand. We've been conditioned to consume everything fast. We don't even watch TV shows like we used to. We need the whole season immediately. So we can't even wait a week for a 30-minute show. And I'm so guilty of that. Buying movies that are at the theater on Amazon and not even going to the theater. And then the fast forward feature on TikTok. And now I think it's on Instagram too, where you don't have to listen to someone talk really slow, which I also use that a lot.
Yeah, I listen to things on 1.5 or 2x speed,
Same,
like all the time now.
Yeah, and that's maybe our brains are getting better at processing. Maybe that's the plus.
I think for me anyway, I'm just trying to get something different out of the dialogue. If it's a tutorial, I'm just trying to get some kind of education out of it. Like I want to get to the point faster, and that's why I do that.
Yeah. I just have ADD and I need them to talk faster. Like when they're telling a story. No.
Because that's part of the storytelling is the pacing.
Yeah. So. The instant gratification of it all. So do you do pre-sales or you do limited runs?
I mostly do limited runs. I've done a couple pre-sales that have worked fairly well. I think that in an ideal world, I would have a bigger reach first in order for that to be like the main way that I run a business.
Let's take it back to when you decided to start Trued or started to go on this journey of, I want to create a fashion brand specifically of things I want to wear. And you have an education that's differing from that.
Yeah, so it was a combination of, on the business side, learning about manufacturing production, which I had no background in at all. So it was through that accelerator program that I mentioned before. They actually don't exist anymore. Otherwise, I would plug them more, but they were called Factory 45. That taught me about all the steps you need to go through. For anyone who wants like a quick 101, basically, you have to source your fabric. So that like decision process is already a lengthy one.
Yeah.
So you get in touch with all these different wholesalers and you get samples sent in the mail, you like feel it out. Maybe you get like some yardage, which means a few yards sent to you, try to make something with it. Do you like it? Okay. Then you put in a whole wholesale order. So that's just the material side. Then you got like any kind of hardware like this that goes through that whole process too. And then you need someone to cut the fabric. That's a whole job on its own. Then you need someone else to sew it. If you're working with a factory like a lot of people use in China, like this could be a whole package deal. But since I do nearshoring, it's like more a la carte.
Yeah.
So one person to cut, one person to sew. I do all the order fulfillment myself, which is part of why I have a studio. But, and grading, of course. So you develop your pattern of your design as a blueprint in a certain size, but then you have to size it out from that. It's called grading. From there, you take the graded patterns and you create markers from them according to how the quantities of each number of the size you want to make. So if I want to make 2 extra small, 5 small, 10 medium, you got to figure out your ratios for that too. I don't know if I'm getting too in the weeds there.
No, not at all. It's fascinating. I think it would be so fun to do a day in the life with you in a long form video, like how you chose your fabric. I think people would love to know about that and also understand, okay, you drive this fabric to your cutter. Where's the cutter again?
I've used a couple different cutters. The one I have now is in Everett, which is great because it's like relatively close. Some clothing manufacturers and related businesses in Fall River. I used to drive all the way there. It's a couple hours, like an hour and a half, I think, to get down there. So it's like a 3-hour round trip just to get fabric cut, like uniform makers and things like that there, because that's like a very straightforward business that has been able to hold on somewhat here.
I would love to go on a tour of one of those places. I'm going to reach out because it's just, I love that show, How It's Made. I'm such a nerd.
Yeah.
I love it though. I don't care what it is. I want to know.
I went through a period where I was like putting that on the background. It's just like calming. Yeah. Yeah.
There's 700,000 videos of it too, like episodes. So you get a cut, you drive, you get it from your wholesaler, it comes to the studio or wherever, and then you drive to Everett, and then you take that to Dorchester to the people that make it. Then you bring it back to the studio and you do your own personal quality evaluation. This is so much that goes into literally making anything, but like the fact that you have a full-time job doing something else, you're in school, presumably full-time, because a master's program to do it in 2 years is full-time. And like, how do you get dressed?
I will share that I used to wonder, like, why when you go see footage from a runway show, like all the outfits are so elaborate, and then when the designer comes out, they're just wearing a t-shirt.
No, I get
it now.
Yeah, I get that. Just even having a vintage shop.
Yeah.
It makes me know all the things you have to do. Plus, if you want social media or anything else, that's just another. And it's just give me a t-shirt.
It works. It's fine.
Is it stained? Maybe. Is it dirty? Possibly. Is it wrinkled? Of course it is. That's just me though.
Yeah.
Have you taken the time to celebrate the fact that you've done so much? Because that's really important to do.
It is my hope that this December is the 5th year anniversary of Trued, and I would like to have the spoons to be able to do something nice with that. In October, that's usually my busiest month. Every weekend, I'm going to be probably in Salem selling stuff on the weekends on top of having my full-time job Monday through Friday.
And also fulfilling online orders.
Yep. And so actually the biggest downside of having this particular business and having high season be Halloween season is that the last couple of Halloweens I've been too tired to do anything.
Yeah.
And that's a real bummer because I love Halloween.
Yeah. Me
So,
too.
yeah, I'm hoping to maybe take the last week of October off and actually chill. But yeah, December would be 5 years Trued has been around. And I want to
That's
try to
awesome.
maybe have a little studio event or something like that, do a
Yeah.
little sale. But yeah, other than that, I had not thought too much about celebrating. I do scroll through my social sometimes and be like, oh, I did all that.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought of all that and I made it happen.
Yeah. I mean,
That's nice.
it's huge to like, because most people don't get through the idea phase because it's so overwhelming. But it sounds like the incubator helped a lot just to
Yeah.
map the process out. Once you know the process, it's a lot more digestible. I can't even imagine. You just decided, first of all, you took some classes, but that's one thing, going from classes to like pattern making and construction to like actually doing it. That's one class. That's really a big deal to me. I don't know.
To be fair, you can accomplish a lot with pretty basic skills if you have a good eye.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, I wouldn't have the confidence to create like a Victorian style corseted dress in a woven fabric that has no stretch. And
Yeah.
like that, like suiting that level of tailoring
Yeah.
is really skilled. And I do not have those skills.
But it's also not your aesthetic either.
So I think the fact that I enjoy minimalism and I wanted to design around that aesthetic and drapey things, and it just makes it all the easier actually to come up with something that looks nice.
Yeah.
It all worked pretty well.
That's still hard. I don't believe you. I 100% believe that but I think you probably found such a creative outlet that it didn't matter. If it was going to be hard, it was going to be hard. You just kept going.
Yeah, it's weird because I've considered doing different product categories. For example, I've done some harnesses and belts, and the expectation of the price point is a lot higher there. People don't give you grief for a $150 thing or more. But that it doesn't have the same level of satisfaction to me as creating a garment that really envelops your body.
Yeah.
It still is interesting to me. I'll probably do more accessories like hats, scarves, jewelry, that sort of thing. But I still get the most gratification out of garment design.
I legit want the outfit you're wearing now. So I can't wait.
Thanks for giving me an opportunity to wear it.
It's so flattering. And like I could see it being flattering on any size, which it excites me because I'm definitely not the same size top as I am bottom. I cannot wait till that releases. And I also love like the Asian inspired like top and silhouette of it. Like I really love it.
Thank you.
I feel like your stuff has that balance of like masculine and feminine.
Thank you.
That is like a sweet spot.
Thanks.
Yeah, you can't believe you created original patterns. That's mad crazy when you are thinking about you're literally working another job. Like when I was working full time, what did I do as a hobby? Nothing. I did absolutely like nothing. I went to school for probably 20 years because that's how long it took me to finish both my undergrad and grad program because I just kept switching it. And also I just didn't care about it. So I was like a career student, but yeah, as far as like a legit hobby or like wanting to start a business while I was working full time, I just couldn't do it.
You know what's weird is, so I have a background in art before I started working in museums. I come from a kind of artistic family on my mom's side, and that was always encouraged. And my mom actually even encouraged me to go to art school, but I was too practical for that. I had to go for BA instead.
Yeah.
But I've always had an ability to draw and paint and that kind of thing. But I never kept it up. Like I just didn't have the discipline to keep up a creative practice individually.
It's so important to have in your life.
I think for people that have a high bar for themselves, it's all the more difficult because if you don't like the way a drawing came out, you're like, that was a waste of time.
Yeah.
But it's not a waste of time. It's like expressing yourself. Like,
yeah.
I saw this thing recently that was like dancing, telling stories, you drawing and painting, that kind of thing. It's all human expression. And we've created like a mentality of looking at it like a profession.
Yeah.
And always addressing like the quality of it before the expressive potential of it.
Yeah.
Which deters a lot of people. I'll go on a brief tangent. I had an internship where I helped open up a children's art school in the Seattle area when I was in undergrad. And they kind of shared some things with me about how a lot of kids drop off of drawing because every child draws. But I think it was like from ages 6 to 8 is when the majority of children realize that they're being judged
Yeah.
for their artwork,
That
and
makes
then they
sense.
stop.
Yeah.
So the idea of this program that I was helping get off the ground was to get these kids to have more of a scaffolding for building their skills so that they don't lose confidence so fast and they stick with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, that's
it's a great point, because I think even as adults, we just need to hear that you can't be perfect at the first opportunity. Like some things just need to be practiced, but also just have fun doing it. And if you don't like it in the end, you don't like it in the end, but
yeah,
don't let it keep you from doing it again.
make bad art.
Yes, make bad art. Did you like have a process to where you were like, what is it that like I want to do? Where you said, okay, fashion design, and
It was actually like out of left field that I would launch a business in fashion because my experience was in drawing and painting and 2D art and some installation and printmaking and all that. But I had no experience in sewing virtually.
yeah.
It's just about your drive of what you want to learn, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I was like, I want to learn to do video and audio. And I also want to talk to all my friends because they have cool businesses.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to find that for the first time, literally, that finding something that is super difficult. There's a big barrier to entry when you do any technical thing, right? And to finally actually be interested in it. So I'm sure that it was super exciting when you started Trued and started seeing the progression, and also just understanding the business side of it and lifting the veil of, okay, I know how to get product. I know how to get my supply chain running. And really that's like the part that nobody thinks about, is the supply chain piece. And I worked in a supply chain for such a long time, and it's the end all be all. It really is.
Yeah.
You can have the best design in the world, but if your supply chain sucks, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. But yeah, like genuine interest can get you through a lot of hurdles for sure.
It's so shocking to me because I've never had that. I just, like you said, when you could have went to art school because your parents supported it, but you chose something else because you're trying to be practical. That's how I lived my whole life. And then I was like, oh, I have no interest in any of this. I wasn't bad at it, but I'm like, why am I so mentally and physically drained all the time? Obviously, everybody wants to do well at their job, but yeah, to literally have passion for it and caring is like two different things. We're just taught so young that we need to, or what do you want to be when you grow up? Kids maybe shouldn't be asked that. Let them live.
Yeah.
Let me live.
I want to be a human being that doesn't drive the earth into the ground.
Yeah.
That's
I want
my
to be
main
a
thing.
kid. I just remember like playing with my little plastic horses out in the grass, and they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, a lawyer. Like, why do I even know what a lawyer is?
Kids don't even know what most of the professions are in this world anyway. Like in this age, I'm a UX researcher. When did I learn that was even a thing? Maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago, 8 years ago.
Yeah. And I did human factors, which is, is that what you're?
Yeah, that's what my degree is in. Yeah.
It's fascinating. Just when you think about human factors also in your clothing, you think about that a lot with the wearability. And I find that so fascinating that you did that and then you did the human factors.
Thank you.
Was that intentional?
No, but it's like one of those things, you just live your life. I'm glad that you can see the parallel there because it's something that isn't super obvious if people don't know what user experience is. It's like, I don't want to say embodied experience because it's not like when you're clicking through a website or an app or even something more physical. Like I know someone who went from designing escape rooms to being a UX designer.
Oh, that's cool.
But there's a lot of commonality there where I'm always thinking about what's the experience of wearing this garment? Like, how are people going to be negotiating with it and accessorizing differently with it, with what else is in their closet? I've also heard that my attention to high quality fabric means that people don't experience dysphoria sometimes when they wear my clothing.
Oh, that's
which is
nice.
great to hear. Every time I hear it, I'm like, yes.
I love the piece that I got when we had the pop-up in my studio. The D-ring tunic. It's so flattering. I can't wait to wear it. I'm going to stay in that thing all summer. And as soon as that two-piece comes out, I'm doing it.
Nice.
One thing I want to definitely highlight is like this podcast and also a lot of our social media talks about, yours and mine both talk about the importance to not overconsume. And there's so much nuance that goes into that discussion. There's so many great podcasts if you want to understand the overconsumption issues. We buy too much shit, period, full stop. It's when you are intentional and where you're spending your money and understanding that piece is quality and that it will last a long time. And when you feel good when you're wearing it, you're more likely to take care of it. So we want to, at least here at Local Threads, we want to make sure people understand that spending money locally is, one, supreme.
Keeps money in the community. There's stats out there about that.
For sure. Keeps money in the community. If you like Trued Apparel or you like Melissa, you resonate with her drive and her ambition, you can actually run into her at a pop-up in Salem in October, or when you follow her on Instagram, they'll be there. Whatever you end up doing, you always announce. I think that's so fun. Meet the person, understand the background of the business and like how it came to life. And most people that I talk to don't do this full time because it's difficult, it's hard. And the ones that do it are working nonstop. And I'd challenge to say that they're probably not making what they should be making. Shop local. Buy from people that you know.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, one of the biggest joys I've got out of this like business journey is the ability to barter with other independent designers and business people.
Yeah. For sure.
I love bartering.
Yeah.
We should all do that.
Yeah. It's so underrated. So we talked about the origin and the philosophy of what Trued means. Can you talk about how you are rejecting the micro trend cycle? Because I think people don't understand, like a lot of sustainable businesses will say they're sustainable.
Where do you begin? So, first of all, you need to have a really reactive and lean production, like supply chain, like Shein style. Like you go from seeing something online, something's trending on TikTok, to producing it in a matter of 3 days.
Yeah.
I don't want to say to their credit exactly, but like it is a feat to do that. They're not doing it ethically.
No.
The whole basis of doing that is we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But the fact is that most people can't do that. So there's that for sure. But also trends in general, like trend following, just don't do it.
Yeah.
Have your own personal style. And that's why I think like the vintage and thrifting boom right now is excellent because people are finding all these unique pieces to make their own and coming up with their own aesthetics. Like, of course, there are going to be trends in the sense that people see each other on the street or see each other online and think, oh, that's a cool look. I'm going to do that too. So there's always going to be these waves, right? But in like artificially creating them the way that we have just obviously is a terrible idea for the earth and the resources that we should be conserving. But also it just lacks originality of thought.
Yeah.
Personally, sometimes I'll see something cool and be like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And I'll incorporate that into my closet. But for the most part, most of my life, I have just worn what I wanted to.
Yeah.
And Trued has this aesthetic because it's what I enjoy making.
Yeah.
And I don't really give a crap about what else is happening.
Yeah. But also you don't release like 100 designs in a year. You're very lean in that regard. And there's a lot of thought behind that. I think when we talked, you said around 15 styles a year, which I don't know if people understand. Like that's a low number. Like I don't think people understand like what you're competing against, not competing against, but what other brands are doing.
Yeah, I think first of all, transparently, it's just about when I have time.
Yeah.
So with everything else I have going on, like I'm not putting out a spring summer collection and a winter fall collection.
Yeah.
That's just not how I would roll to begin with because inspiration just strikes whenever.
Yeah. But your pieces are very transitional from
intentionally.
Yeah, which is I think also people need to respect that because that is awesome. You're getting something you can wear in the summer and in the winter. Like people don't put that much thought into things. When I see stuff at the store, it's like a t-shirt, a crop top. It's the same crap.
It's interesting because now you mention that the sameness of a lot of stuff, I have noticed a trend in places like Target towards basics.
Yeah.
And it's all a business calculus.
Yeah.
You could draw the same parallel with politics, actually.
Yeah.
People are afraid to take a risk and go out on a limb and say something that actually means anything. Same thing in fashion, because it's about basically how many units can you move, or where's the bulk of the people going to be.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating too. Like, society has gotten to this. You're either very into fashion or you're not. At least taking fashion risks as far as how you dress, or having a very specific sense of style, or even knowing your own style. I'm only recently figuring that out myself. And I know that when I do wear something loud or have a curated outfit, people lose it for just wearing a simple, loud color. It's, oh, I wish I could do that. It's like, you literally can. It's no big
Yeah.
deal.
To me, fashion is about having fun with your self-expression.
Yeah.
And if you follow that line of thinking, then it's just another way to have fun with your life. We touched on this a little bit before we started recording, but I was in the same way that I came out to neighborhoods that I used to know and felt like Rip Van Winkle. I was observing street fashion with fresh eyes because I just hadn't seen that many people in a while. At least not in real life. And I noticed that people had upped their fashion game in the pandemic. And I realized it was probably largely because of online influences. And I'm not mad at it. Like, I have always felt like Boston could do more to just have fun with it, because they're so low risk for the most part when it comes to daily dressing. And I'm not hating on that either. I was just talking earlier about why you want to throw on a wrinkled t-shirt sometimes. Like, that's totally cool too. But I have noticed people being more creative and also playing more with gender and like just accessorizing in novel ways. And I think that's super cool.
If you want accessories that are jewelry, like, you can find anything made locally here. I've lived a lot of places and I probably just wasn't paying attention there. But here there's such a huge creative community. And you had mentioned that you think people got more creative during the pandemic here specifically, which I find fascinating. I think a lot of people did pick up new hobbies and really turn them into businesses.
There's also a balance between finding your market too.
So what is your proudest moment from Trued?
I'm not going to say one particular moment, but I will say every time I see someone in the wild wearing something that I've designed, and I don't even know them, like whether this is online or in person, like I've gone to shows where like someone in the crowd is wearing a Trued piece and like I'm just somebody else in the crowd and they don't know me.
That's so cool.
And yeah, I just like really love seeing people integrating something that I've created into their lives.
Yeah.
And again, this goes back to UX as well.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing of you've created something that someone has taken in like crawled into a snail or something, and now it's their home.
Yeah.
And I just really love seeing something that I've done be part of someone else's story too.
It really is cool. That's got to be so surreal.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Do they notice ever?
I think the last time that happened, they gave me like a what's up. So
nice.
Maybe they recognized my face from
They're
somewhere.
probably nervous. Upcoming collections or releases. We were talking earlier about your current outfit that you're wearing, which is a 2-piece with metal detail for the people that are not watching on YouTube, but you should watch on YouTube so you can see it. When is that going to come out?
So as I mentioned earlier, I'm wearing my samples right now.
Yeah.
I'm literally going to take them off of my body and give them to my sewists later today.
Yeah.
I brought a change of clothes so that I have something to wear once these are off.
Yeah.
So they are going into production imminently. So I got to take good photos and get it up on the website and all that. Realistically, maybe in the next couple months.
Yeah.
Especially given the fact that I'm graduating soon.
Yeah, you don't forget to celebrate that.
Yeah, that I need to do life things. But so these are coming out, and I also have a version of this that's inspired by the D-ring tunic where it's open in the front. It's like a top with a long back. I don't know if I'm going to production with that yet, but So I have those. And then I have a one-shouldered asymmetrical dress with ruching,
Mm.
and then palazzo pants with a corset top.
Oh, yes.
It's like a corset belt with elastic kind of style. So you can either cinch it in the front or you can flip it and cinch in the back.
Ooh.
So it's lacing in the back.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that. Do you have any advice for people looking to build a more intentional wardrobe?
Well, I think, first of all, I'll say as an example, Earth Day was just last week. I did a footprint calculator. There's this thing that will tell you how many Earths worth of consumption you are consuming. And even for someone like myself who doesn't do a lot of driving, but I do own a car, the fact that I'm not vegetarian and that I live in a house that's not super tiny. My house is fairly tiny, but like by global standards, things like that. I think I was at like 6 Earths consumption, literally consuming at 6 times what we should be.
Wow.
And I'm an intentional person. And
I need to go back and calculate that.
Yeah, it was like a fresh wake-up call. I've had other wake-up calls, but
yeah, that's a good thing to practice every year.
Yeah, to
on
check
Earth Day, check your footprint.
Yeah, just the fact that you travel, you like get on a plane sometimes.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people in other parts of the world that like just aren't never travel. The fact that we're in a developed country means that we're just consuming at an above average rate. Whereas someone living in a rural area in a community that's really efficient and shares a lot of things, we should be moving in a direction where we're not constantly in a consumption mindset.
Yeah.
So it's fundamentally about, I get the itch too, I want something new. I'm going to go online. Oh, I'm watching TV. It's 10 p.m. and I'm just like having my me time and I'm going to go scroll and look for something to buy.
Yeah.
That's okay sometimes, but I'm trying to curb that in myself.
Yeah.
And I know it's not the easiest thing.
No, we're taught to buy things from a very young age, whether that's for a special occasion or to keep up with other people. And it's just like part of the American experience more, I think, than a lot of other places. I don't know.
Yeah. Since you've lived in other parts of the world, you've seen that like culture permeates things in weirdly subtle ways.
Yeah.
Like even going to California and seeing there's more of an like emphasis on recycling and composting just like around. But when I go to Singapore, there's just a greater awareness of global events too.
Yeah.
Also out of necessity because they're just more interconnected with other countries.
Yeah.
And they're also a very green city, very efficient. So I guess, okay, back to your original question of like how to have an intentional closet. Just slow down.
Yeah.
Like I know that I make new garments and I sell them and that's how I make money with Trued, but that's like a creative project for me. And I've intentionally not built my income on that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be in a position where I'm selling you things that you don't really need. Nobody needs new clothes, but if you want to partake in like a unique thing that I've designed and that I get joy out of designing, then I would like that. That's my position in it. Yeah, to have an intentional closet, when you do buy high quality, buy things that like I know Marie Kondo's like, I don't know, maybe passé now, but like things that you really feel like you connect to.
Yeah.
And that way, when you go through your closet, it's things that you like actually have meaning instead of just were bought on a whim. So in general, that. And then like when you do buy, try to buy independent, local with materials that are sustainable or at the very least secondhand and thrifted.
Yeah.
Because that means it's not like virgin petroleum products and things like that.
Yeah. That's a good point. Also, when you're buying something, are you buying it because you like it or are you buying it because everyone else likes it? I think that's a good like indicator. And also, do you even know your own style? Because I didn't. I always wore a uniform or I had on the corporate uniform, which is a suit. So I didn't have a style.
You know what I think would be a fun question for this podcast? I guess it won't be all like fashion themed.
No, let's hear it.
What was your worst fashion choice?
Yeah.
What do you look back and remember wearing and you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's a good, what's yours?
I think maybe because I was like new to this weather out here. I just didn't know how to dress for cold when I came out here from Hawaii.
Yeah.
So I was experimenting in college with different ways of layering and stuff. And I had these drawstring pants that had drawstring at the top and at the bottom with the idea that like you would probably cinch it at the ankle and have that silhouette. But I would cinch it at the calf.
Yeah.
So they look kind of like pedal pushers, and I would wear them with cowboy boots.
Oh, wow. I would not expect that from you. Cowboy boots.
Yeah, like cowboy boots had a moment at that point.
Were they black?
No, I think I had a tan pair, and then I had a white pair with tassels.
Oh.
I don't know. I've been through a lot of phases.
Yeah.
But that didn't make any sense at all. Why was I doing that? But yeah, that was a weird one.
I was full on Ed Hardy, Von Dutch, low rise. Yeah, that was
Okay.
a choice. But I was also living in Vegas,
Yeah.
and I wore the juicy tracksuits.
Oh,
Yeah, but that was like my early 20s. In high school, I wore other people's clothes because I just didn't have new things because there was just nothing near me. I was probably 45 minutes from any city. I grew up in a town where you only had to dial the 4 numbers to call each other. I don't know if other places did that.
I've never heard of that before. Well, what was the population?
300.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's like a school.
Yeah,
A
one
small
red light.
school.
It wasn't a switchboard. Like, I'm not that old. Yeah, I just had to dial 4 numbers to call my friend down the road.
That's like if you lived in a hotel, that would be an extension in the hotel.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So, like, fashion wasn't really a thing. I borrowed clothes from people. Even, this is so stupid, but even I would borrow my friend's shoes, and I remember she was like a whole size smaller. I would just go battle through it. I didn't care. It was so ridiculous. I just wore a whole bunch of weird stuff, and then I went in the military and wore a uniform, and really.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I actually just thought of a real fashion faux pas that I had
Oh.
when you were talking about uniforms.
Yeah.
When I first moved from Singapore, I used to go to an all-girls school that had a uniform, right? And then I went into a co-ed school where I was dressing myself for the first time. This is a nice fashion nostalgia story. So I had the set of, did I mention this before? Big t-shirts.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
Yes.
That your friend.
Good. I'm glad I remembered that. So big t-shirts with the days of the week on them and really big block letters that said Mon-Day, Tuesday. And so I would just wear them because it's like the only clothes I had that weren't like uniforms.
Yeah.
And I guess it wasn't that uncommon for like a 10-year-old, 9-year-old girl to wear big t-shirts and shorts. That was just what you wore at that age a lot of the time. But it was like the days of the week, plus they had scripture on them from the day of creation of the first week.
Happened?
Yeah. It was like the birds and plants are made today or whatever.
That's so funny. But it's so hard when you go from not having to make a choice to like then having to like make one.
Yeah. So I think maybe that was the start of a journey of finding identity through fashion, but also through music and how like those two kind of feed off of each other, because I was very much like into alt stuff right off the bat. Like, within the first couple of years, I was like, I listen to the rock station, going from just never listening to the radio at all. But yeah, and dressing in a way that like identified myself as someone who was like that. Yeah, I guess that was my journey from wearing my big days of the week.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I wonder if you have if you or your parents have any photos of you in those shirts.
They're probably out there. Yeah. If something comes up, I will send it to you.
That'd be great. That's a great question. I'm going to definitely incorporate that in the future episodes. We talked about your upcoming releases, which I'm really excited about, how to build a more intentional wardrobe and also consider slowing your consumption down. I think that what you're doing definitely encourages people to be more thoughtful and also doing that by example. I can't wait to see what you do for your 5-year. Yeah, you should definitely do something big. You should do something big anyway. You're graduating for the second time. Do something for that.
I wasn't going to walk at first, but then some friends convinced me, we'll go out for drinks afterwards.
Yeah.
Kind of so it's turning into something.
Yeah. Cherish those moments. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. This one's been great.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Go congratulate Melissa on her recent graduation. Follow Trued Apparel on all social platforms. Check the show notes for links and more. Thank you for joining me this week. I can't say that enough. Like, I literally just started a podcast and people are listening to it. So thank you. Be sure to follow Local Threads on Instagram for updates. And if you want to watch full episodes, they are available on YouTube.